welcome viewers to this series of lectures on ancient India. I have earlier spoken to you about the historiography of / in ancient India or early India as such, and this time around we are going to speak about the Harappan civilization, and within Harappan civilization we would be specifically discussing the settlement pattern. As you all know, Harappan civilization, the timeline happens to be the mature phase, happens to be around 2500 BCE to around 18 or 1700 BCE. That is the phase when the Harappan civilization as such was in its bloom, was you can say in its prime. Subsequent to that, there is evidence of some kind of a decay, some kind of a shrinkage in the settlement size and so forth, which is also understood with reference to the decline of Harappan civilization. Of course, in history writing, there have been counterpoints to this, where it is argued that we should rather look at the continuity of Harappan civilization with the Vedic culture that followed it, or there also are viewpoints which claim that there is no difference in terms of the architects of Harappan civilization and the Vedic culture, but the mainstream view of course holds that the architects of Harappan civilization were somewhat different from that of the Vedic culture which followed it. And as is usual in history writing, there are points and counterpoints to this debate of continuity and change with reference to Harappan civilization. Now, I am somewhat breaking this chronological sequence to straight away discuss Harappan civilization's settlement pattern, but that is with sense of a plan. And the plan is that as a student, if we have some kind of an idea of the geographical specificities of different patches in Harappan civilization, where we have maximum evidence of habitation sites, then you can look at even the origin of Harappan civilization from the pre-existing Neolithic and Chalcolithic cultures that are there prior to 2500 BCE. Of course, several Chalcolithics majorly are after the Harappan civilization, that is after the decline of Harappan civilization, but copper was used at some of the sites even in the pre-Harappan layers, and therefore, if you have some idea about the geographical and climatic specificities of different regions that composed Harappan civilization, then perhaps you can appreciate the argument around the local origins of Harappan civilization better. Of course, there are some aspects of Harappan civilizational life that are sudden around 2500 BCE. For example, you have the planned layout or written scripts, etc. That does not seem to have very many antecedents in the pre-Harappan layers, but today's plan is to discuss the settlement pattern of Harappan civilization. So, what we are going to do in this settlement pattern? So, basically settlement pattern is like, if you look at the map of Harappan civilization, wherever you find dots representing habitation sites, and where you find some concentrated cluster of settlements. So, why are they there? Why are they located there? And why are there open patches without much of habitation interspersed on the Harappan map? So, one can be able to make better sense of this, or one can justify the presence of habitation sites at some points and blank spaces on several locations on Harappan map once we have discussed the settlement pattern. So, if you just visualize the Paleolithic times or even the Mesolithic times, you will find hunting and gathering as the chief mode of existence, and that itself would have not required people to stay at one place for a longer duration of time, because man is completely dependent on nature. He is not producing food on his own. Agriculture, animal husbandry is unknown to them, and so wherever they stay for some duration of time, they have to leave that area because of the depletion of natural resources, natural food resources that are available to them. So, obviously, they would hop down to some nearby areas where they would stay for some duration of time and then go to some other area. So, archaeological excavations do not give you any thick debris of deposit for Paleolithic cultures, whereas as you enter Neolithic or Chalcolithic cultures or timelines, agriculture has made its beginning. Pastoral villages of tribal groups are there, and that is very understandable, because agriculture as a group activity, as a community activity, requires people to stay at one place for a longer duration of time, because it is a time taking exercise. So, year after year you have to make fields ready for sowing or harvesting and so forth, and that requires you to stay at that place or irrigate it if artificial irrigations are resorted to and so forth, or look after the raised crops from grazing animals, from cattle, etc. So, that requires you to stay at that place. So, obviously, in the Neolithic, Chalcolithic phases, it is agriculture and pastoral concerns that dominate the settlement pattern of these cultures or in this timeline. However, as we are talking of the Harappan civilization, we are talking of the Bronze Age. Now, I am using Gordon Child's terminology here and his logic, and since he is offering some kind of a technocentric explanation for whatever is seen across the globe as part of the Bronze Age civilization, obviously he accords it a specific social formation. He says that Bronze Age or use of copper for whatever purpose that these settlements are putting it to, it requires a different kind of usage, and therefore, and even mining copper or copper metallurgical exercises, etc., they are of such nature that it impacts the social organization in a particular way. So, this is true that copper is of incidental utility in tool making in Neolithic and Chalcolithic stages, but as we come to Bronze Age civilizational complex like Harappa was, the usage of copper becomes rather regular, and this brings a marked difference in social organization of the times that we are talking of. And why it is happening? Because development of bronze metallurgy involved not only copper, or it could be tin, lead, etc. So, mining of it, smelting, alloying, casting, the pyrotechnology used, that is attaining that degree of heat or temperature to melt the particular metal. So, for that certain kind of fuel is required, attainment of particular degree of temperature is required. Obviously, the chemical processes of reduction or oxidation is taken care of. Kilns are to be looked at, fluxing is resorted to, charcoal has to be there. So, given these necessities, given these compulsions, or given these processes that come embedded with copper or bronze metallurgy, there are some consequences that follow for social organization of the times that we are talking also. Copper, one should remember, quite unlike iron, which came subsequently, is a scarce metal on this planet. It is not plentifully and very democratically available everywhere. So, there are very few patches where copper in its natural form is available, and since a Bronze Age civilization depends on copper for on regular basis, therefore, they have to procure it from somewhere. And suppose if you visualize Harappan civilization geography, then copper was available only in some pockets. Now, that copper has to be transported and made available to different parts of the Harappan territory, because all of them are using it, and obviously it has to be transacted in a particular way. So, there are specific people and processes by which this has to happen. Then as we discussed earlier, that there are specific metallurgical processes. So, know-how of that is also a required thing, and all these requirements impact the social formation in a particular way, and hence there is structural dependence on regular external interaction with towns or elite groups. So, the point that we are trying to make here is that if we are talking of Harappan civilization, if we are talking of Bronze Age civilization, then you cannot think of very self-sustained kind of pockets doing agriculture on its own and not being in touch with other areas on a long term basis, because copper is not available everywhere, it has to be procured. So, there has to be some kind of a trade nexus, some kind of a dependence on trade or exchange over a long period of time, over a long stretch of geography. So, invariably you will find that Bronze Age civilizations are very well knit, connected kind of civilizations, and that is a must for them, because their dependence on copper is quite structured. And so, that is one thing. Alongside, of course, there is a flip side to this as well, which is if it is interlinked, if that nexus is so crucial and important for the civilization, then also true is the fact that it can also prove to be fragile. Fragile in the sense that if that network is broken, if that network is ruptured, then it might run into problem, because interlinkage is extremely necessary. Interlinkage is extremely necessary in Bronze Age contexts. Also true is the fact that metals offer greater skilled carpentry and fine carving of stone, seals or ivory. Therefore, Bronze Age cities were also the loci of technology and economic transformation, and also sustained external trade. So, if you are working on a stone and carving of a stone, obviously will give you a result which will not be as intricate as carving on metal. So, the ductility or malleability of metals, of course, is more. So, it can be worked into a finer tool or finer object, and that requires a degree of technological know-how, and also economic finesse or economic I would say sophistication, and therefore, Bronze Age civilizations carry all these attributes. Fragility comes embedded with it, that we have already discussed on account of the scarceness of the metal copper. Now, since we are talking of the settlement pattern of Harappan civilization, then basically what we are doing is we are trying to map the spread of various sites particularly the concentrated sites or patches of sites across the Harappan map. So, keep in mind the landscape of Harappan area and plot whatever habitations that we know of on that map, and that will reveal what kind of topography is the chosen topography, where more number of settlements are there, what all natural resources are available to them, why people chose to settle over an area and not other areas, not in other areas. There obviously could be several political reasons for that. There could be some cultural, religious reasons for that. But as all of us know that we do not have access to the written sources in Harappan civilization, then for historians or archaeologists, they have to rely only on the material findings and infer from those material findings whatever can be said about some political compulsions or cultural compulsions. That is because suppose you find some cluster of sites in an area which is very inhospitable, and we will discuss that subsequently in this lecture, that there are areas where there are Harappan sites, and they by themselves, in terms of climatic conditions, in terms of geographical conditions, in terms of access to river system or agrarian purpose, or even for living a comfortable life, they should not have been the chosen area. I mean, the environment is very inhospitable, and yet there is a site over there. So, obviously, the reason could have been something else. It could have been the compulsion of having a trade post, or compulsion of maintaining exchange with some other areas where some people are to be stationed over there. So, it could be a trading outpost, it could be a transient kind of settlement, and yet they are there. And yet another explanation could be that maybe that in those centuries the climatic conditions were somewhat different from what it appears today. So, all these tangents come into discussion as we proceed with the settlement pattern of Harappa. So, let us examine the location of habitation sites. It could be village site, it could be town, it could be industry sites with respect to what was the rainfall received in that area per annum, what were the river regimes available to these people who settled in a particular patch, what is the degree of access to groundwater that they had. Please remember that they did not have extractive technology as we have it today, fueled by hydrocarbons and so forth. So, it had to be manually done. So, if groundwater is very deep or not sweet, then obviously the chances of having a settlement over there or cluster of settlement over there will be reduced. But again, as I said, that there are cases where today's condition of groundwater do not quite justify as to why Harappan should have chosen to settle over those areas. So, either maybe that during those periods of time groundwater was little sweet, or there could be some other concern that we will discuss. Similarly, soil typology, mineral resources in terms of stone, wood, shell, metal that were readily available to them, and once we map an area with respect to these resources or physical and climatic features or river regimes, etc., then one can discern the basic features of the economy as well during the Harappan period. Now, overall ecology, if you look at the overall ecology of Harappan civilization, then it can be termed as semi-arid. So, there is insufficient rainfall for crops in a very broad sense of the term. So, average rainfall for the Harappan area, keeping all varieties in mind, should be less than 40 centimeter per annum, which is just about adequate for an agrarian culture or civilization. However, this this insufficient rainfall for crop production. We all know that Harappans were major crop producers, and then only this degree of civilization or this level of civilizational sophistication could have been reached. So, agriculture was pursued despite the area not receiving very plentiful rainfall, as subsequently in the Gangetic areas is the case. So, there you do not have any rainfall problem, but in Harappa area, of course, the rainfall is just about adequate, and therefore, one had to maybe combine other strategies of economic sustenance, or mix it with several other techniques. For example, animal husbandry. It's important to remember that even today, the areas where Harappa civilization thrived, those areas even in the northwestern part of the present India, you will find lot of dependence or combination of animal husbandry with agriculture till date. So, that's the life strategies that people in villages still deploy, and that might have to do with scantiness of the rainfall received. However, there is one specificity with respect to the geography or location of Harappan civilization, which theorists or geographers also refer to as ecotone. So, what is ecotone? Ecotone is that area, that spot, that zone where two contrasting physical features or climatic features terminate, or they dovetail. So, an area say which is the eastern fringe of the Mediterranean type of climate, and that area is also the western fringe of the monsoon type of climate. Now, in our school days we must have studied or you might remember that monsoon type of climate is known for rainfall in the summer months. Primarily it gives little bit of rainfall during winter seasons well, when the monsoon is reversing, but majorly it is rainfall is in the summer months, whereas Mediterranean type of climate is known for rainfall in the winter months. So, areas in Europe around Mediterranean, they receive rainfall in the winter months. Now, location wise Harappa happens to be an ecotone area. So, little bit of rainfall happens in Harappa area in winter seasons also, because of its because of that area being the eastern terminal of Mediterranean type of climate. Similarly, it does receive fair bit of rainfall in the summer months, because of its because of it being the western frontier of monsoon type of climate, and therefore, there is focus on rabi crops like wheat, barley, mustard, linseed, peas, lentils, gram, etc. In the winter months, and that is possible, that would have been possible in Harappa, and of course, cattle, sheep, goat are also there, which supplement the basis of subsistence alongside agriculture. So, that is it for this part of the lecture. We shall proceed from here in the next part of this lecture. Thank you.